Presented by Kamuk Ukulele Magazine, this is Ukulele Stories. Hello, my name's Cameron Murray and welcome to episode 2 of Ukulele Stories. In this instalment, I chat with the fantastic Mic Conway. Something of an Australian music legend, Mick first found success when he formed the Captain Matchbox Whoopee Band with his brother Jim in the late 1960s. In the 70s, he befriended late-great Sydney artist Martin Sharp and played with Tiny Tim, which, as you'll hear, was an interesting experience. More recently, Mick has collaborated with brilliant Aussie uke player Azzo Bell, and will be known to younger listeners as the voice of the Wiggles' Wags the Dog. He still gigs regularly as the leader of the National Junk Band, and I'm proud to call him a friend. In fact, back in 2011, Mick acted as the MC at the official launch of Kamuk Ukulele Magazine, for which I'll always be grateful. This episode was recorded at Mick's home, so please excuse any background noise. I hope you enjoy it. My first question is, do you remember your first encounter with the ukulele?
Well, I remember hearing on old 78 records some Hawaiian bands and loving that. And then in the early 70s, when I was formed a little jug band, I wanted to play a stringed instrument. And Mick Fleming, who was in my band, got hold of a Martin uke, so I started rather well there. And so I bought this uke. I was so really happy with it, and also I found a couple of months later, I got some kumales or kamales, or I don't know how to say it, but yeah. So they were a little less precise in their tuning, but the Martin was great, and so were the kamales. I just loved them, and I was from that moment in love with the uke. Yeah,
and so it was from those old Hawaiian recordings and things that you.
Yeah, when I was a kid, when I was a child, I used to go around to school fetes and op shops collecting old 78s with silly titles on them. But I also liked the Hawaiian things as well. So the uke thing, and the other beautiful thing that happened for me at the same time, or very early in the piece, I started learning just getting chord shapes out of a book. But I met, and he played with me and recorded with me, Les Adams. Have you ever heard of him?
I have, actually, yeah.
Yeah, he had a Hawaiian band in the 60s. He had all these vinyl recordings. He'd gone over as a surfer to Hawaii and discovered the ukulele. And he was also very good at lap steel and Hawaiian steel and all that. He was a great player, and he had these bands, Les Adams and his Hawaiians, even though he was as Aussie as you and me. Oh, no, you're not Aussie, but he only lived in St Kilda. I used to go down to his flat and learn strums and things off Les,
right.
So that was my early beginnings in uke. I certainly wasn't his star pupil, that's for sure. But I just loved the uke, and that just got me going. You know.
What happened to Les? Do you know?
He passed away, but I recorded.
Quite old when you were.
He was pretty mature then. He was I was in my 20s and he was in his 60s.
Right.
Then. So he lived there in a flat in St Kilda with his wife. But we got him on Matchbox. I was in Captain Matchbox in those days, which was this sort of comedy band of the 70s. And we got him to play on one of our albums. And we did this recording of a lullaby, which during the punk era, so we were completely against the grain of everything, which was called Sleep.
Kind of anti-punk.
Yeah, it was anti-punk, but it wasn't. It was like we wrote the song. It was like a 1920s or 30s sort of lullaby, sweet. It's got a sweet crooning tune, and we got Les to play steel, Hawaiian steel on it as well as uke on the recording of it, and he was just great. And it was like when you're the honour of having your mentor or teacher come up and play on your record and all that. And he was just a lovely guy.
Yeah. And so, what about apart from the sound of the uke, what else did you like about it?
Well, I like the rhythm things. I've seen you play, and you can pick out a melody and do marvellous things as well as rhythm and melody, but I like the rhythm playing, and in fact Les Adams, I love the person who I loved his rhythm playing was George Formby. Les Adams told me this incredible story. He saw George Formby at the Palais in
Melbourne.
St Kilda
Yeah.
in I don't know whether the 40s or 50s.
Yeah.
And he said George Formby was sitting in front with his banjo uke, playing away and like dazzling everything with his, his right hand was just rumpity bump bump, and every so often Les is watching this guy, and every so often a hand would go through. He'd finish the song, a hand would go through and hand him another uke.
Yeah.
And Les just couldn't work out what was going on. Then he realised that George didn't play many chords, and all he did was he was in changing keys. He got just ukuleles in different keys, and it was just that his rhythm hand was everything. And that's I just love that sort of stuff. But I was the old 78s that you got in Australia didn't really have. You did have some Hawaiian players, but it was tended to be more American or English versions of Hawaiian stuff on the 70s. But occasionally you would get, Solo Wapi or somebody like that, or King Benny or something like that. But mostly they were kind of commercialised versions of Hawaiian, which were very good as well. I loved them anyway. So I'm probably digressing for you a lot, but anyway.
That's right.
But anyway, I just was in love with the uke at a very early when I just heard it. I didn't hear anyone play until I, picked up the uke myself, and then I got just kind of self-taught, and then came across Les Adams later on, and a couple of years down the track, and then he started showing me Hawaiian strums and all these things, and I thought, this is great.
Well, that's it. I mean, when you picked it up in late 60s, 70s, I guess? Was it
early 70s.
Early 70s. Obviously, there wasn't much ukulele happening. Why did you decide to sort of go totally against the grain, against rock and punk?
Well, I wasn't going it. I wasn't a deliberate decision. I just loved 20s and 30s music. Right. My grandparents were vaudeville, and my mother's brothers were singers, but my mother loved Fats Waller. And I loved Fats Waller, even though I couldn't play the piano, even though my grandfather did. But I fell in love with the 20s, 30s things at a very early age, and so when I formed a band, I formed a band at high school. They were called the Jelly Bean Jug Bank, but I couldn't play anything, so I played washboard and jug. But they were kind of makeshift instruments, and I found I had a natural thing for it, and I knew I could sing. So I did that. And my brother started harmonica, and so the uke was kind of the next jump from not being able to play any. I could just play percussive or jug improvised instruments. The uke is so accessible, and I was already in love with it anyway. So it was just a natural progression. Yeah,
I've heard your grandparents were vaudevillians, I guess.
Yes, well, my grandfather was, and his brothers and sisters were. So great aunts and great uncles.
So
and things.
What was their speciality, or did they...
My grandfather was. I'll show you a photo of him. He's up here. He's the Wizard of the Wurlitzer. Here he is at the State Theatre.
Wow.
Playing the Wurlitzer. That's him there.
That's terrific.
With his band, and that's the Wizard of the Wurlitzer. And whereas these are my great aunts and uncles playing like a jug band in the backyard of a house in Melbourne or something like that. But he was at the State Theatre in Sydney. They were my man Aarons, and I was born Aarons, Aarons,
Oh, right.
but my father changed his name. My father's name was Conway Aarons, and he changed his name to James Conway because he felt discriminated for being a Jew, and yet he wasn't a Jew. His father was a Jew. You have to go through the maternal side. So his father was a Jew, but his mother was. We don't even know what she was, but my grandmother was. We think she's a gypsy. We for a long time thought she was Aboriginal, but we think now that she's gypsy. So it's a long story. We are still not absolutely sure what happened.
Yeah.
So Manny Aarons played with Maureen and all those early Australian. My father's godfather was Stiffy and Mo, so there was this vaudeville side of the family, and the great aunt, my Adelaide, Addie, she was a tap dancer, and used to tap dance on points of all things. And I had another great aunt, Isla, who used to play in the vaudeville shows as a child.
Yeah.
Up till the age of 37, she played the part of a child because she was tiny. And she lived to the age of 104, ironically. So, but anyway, so...
Were they all based in Sydney or Melbourne?
Yeah, they all in Sydney, and then the aunts moved to Melbourne later on, yeah. Okay. And I was born in Sydney and raised in Melbourne. I moved to Melbourne when I was very young.
Right.
Yeah, so I just had that love of that kind of wacky kind of 20s, 30s kind of novelty music because I was collecting the old 78s, not because of my grandfather or anything, but just because I loved it. You know, it's just, I don't know what happened there. I was totally do it.
What do you think makes the ukulele so perfect for vaudeville?
Well, it's got a happy sound. I mean, even though you can play sad tunes on the uke.
Yeah. I guess vaudeville, as a rule, is a happy kind of...
Yeah, it tended to be up.
Positive.
Positive, yeah. And it suits that kind of swing, kind of rhythmic kind of flavours and syncopations and things like that you get with that era, from the 20s and 30s era. It's the golden age for me.
Definitely. How important is the uke now, then, to the National Junk Band, for instance?
Oh, yeah, it's important. Well, there's Phil Donison, who you know, and he loves the uke. I play a little bit of uke in it, but I'm more playing saw these days, much more.
Yeah.
But I also have the tenor guitar, the national tenor guitar, which is like a big ukulele anyway, the four-string
Is that tuned DGBE?
Yeah, it is now. When I first started playing, it was CGDE, like a CGDA, a tenor banjo, which I do play, but not very well either. But having said that, but I now tune it like, so I started playing banjo shapes on with the uke tuning and then vice versa. I was thinking, oh no, this is not right. So I just simplified it, you know. Some people are just natural. I'm not. I'm a plotter.
Well, now we're in kind of what I've deemed, and other people have as well, the third wave of ukulele. You know, the first was being the 15s to the 20s, and then second 50s to the early 60s with TV and Arthur Godfrey and all these people.
Yeah.
Now was the internet mainly. Do you think, has that impacted on your career? You know, has it given you more opportunities?
Yeah, a little bit, not a lot. I get a few ukulele festivals and things like that, but the ukulele's become kind of more acceptable. I mean, when I was playing ukulele in the 70s, people were going, you know, what's that? You know, guitar that you put in the washing machine and it shrunk or something. You know, there's all these jokes about it, but you know, they didn't get it. You know, and they were kind of, oh, this is a wacky kind of oddball. Though, you know, so it's less oddball now. So it's a little bit more mainstream, which is quite good in a way. But at the same time, less novelty, I suppose. But I don't worry about that. But it hasn't really, because I'm not a specialist ukulele player and I'm not a red hot player anyway. It's been. The great thing about the uke for me is I'm a singer, and it's the fantastic support for the voice. It's just perfect, you know, for that. And you can travel with it so easily. You know, you don't have to. You know, you can. I mean, when I just been to Germany, and I was able to take it on board in the plane, and at even with my carry-on luggage, I could still bring the uke. You know, so that's brilliant. You know, I think, yes. So no, it's good in every way. You know, but
Speaking of the 70s, did you ever meet Tiny Tim when he was out here touring?
I did. I performed
with Martin Sharp.
With Martin, I played at Martin's funeral.
Right.
At the St Andrew's Church in Sydney.
Yes.
He asked me because I went down with Tango, one of my daughters, who was doing HSC at the time, and she was doing portraits of artists, and so for her HSC, and I knew Martin. My first gig in Sydney, from coming up from Melbourne with the Captain Matchbox Whoopee Band, was at the Yellow House, which was this legendary place in King's Cross, which we lived and spent a couple of weeks there, and so I knew Martin from that, and also I discovered in the 60s when I was at school Tiny Tim, because I didn't think anybody played that sort of music in those days. It was all Rolling Stones and Beatles and things like that, which I didn't. I thought they were good too, but suddenly there was this guy playing songs from the turn of the century right through to the 30s and 40s and 50s. And I'm thinking, oh my God, and he was brilliant voice, and he had this rich, people only know him for his falsetto, but he had this incredible, rich baritone voice, and I just loved what he did in his first album. I discovered his first album, which is called God Bless Tiny Tim, and to me it was like most people, a life-changing thing was hearing Sgt. Pepper's, and it was a very good album, but to me it was God Bless Tiny Tim.
There was no God Bless Tiny Tim, was it?
No, of course, I know I was a big fan of Tiny's, but in the 80s and 90s we got to play with Tiny a few times, and I got to meet him a number of times. He was very eccentric and very silly, and he was a bit like, he was a bit of a faker with his uke, though. He's very good though. It was a real. I'm not trying to put him down, but we had to kind of. Fortunately, I didn't have to keep up with him in the courts. We had to actually accompany him at the Paddington Town Hall once, and that was mind-boggling. Fortunately, I had some really good musicians, because he would just take off, and he would just go from one song to the next, to the next, to the next, and you didn't name the key or anything. He had no rehearsal. You didn't rehearse with him, and so you just
he refused to rehearse, or
it's just not his style. It's not his thing. But you just had to keep up with him. You just had to lug behind him. And fortunately, I was just on those gigs. I was playing sort of washboard and kazoos and things like that, and I could easily, because most of it was in 4/4, and it was pretty easy. But the guitarists and the bass players and they all had to kind of keep up. Well, it worked though, but. He was very massive contradictions as a person.
Oh yeah, how was he to deal with, apart from the professional side?
He was lovely, but he was so eccentric. I'm just reading this book it's called Eccentropedia, which is all about the eccentrics of the world. It's the most interesting people in the world, that's what it says. And there are some pretty bizarre ones, but Tiny Tim was right in there. Because when he was he was like a sleazeball at the same time as being,
very
religious.
Christian and exactly.
And yet he was Jewish, and then you think, oh my God.
There's a lot going on there, wasn't there? Well, Martin also was a big supporter of ukulele, wasn't he? Because he did a lot for Tiny.
He was Tiny's
more his house
muse. He did support him a lot. In Australia, brought him out and all that, and it blew a lot of his money on Tiny's. Some of his projects didn't make money; they lost money, a lot. But he just loved Tiny. But he knew I loved Tiny, and I wasn't trying to butt up to him to love him. I already had known, and so he got me to sing when he was dying in his last year. He had emphysema, and he got me to come down and play ukulele, and he got me to sing at his funeral. He asked me to sing Over the Rainbow, which I did, and I was honoured to do that. It's a beautiful song.
It is,
and I love the verse on it, so I insisted on doing the verse, and that's what I liked about Tiny too. He did a lot of verses of songs that I'd never heard the verse. You hear these dance band things, and they always just play the chorus. In the middle,
one verse,
and that's it.
Yeah.
And but he did. I'd never heard the verse of As Time Goes By until I heard Tiny Tim sing that.
Maybe I haven't ever heard that either.
Well, it's a great verse, and there's so many of them that anyway. So I love Tiny. Tiny Tim was a big influence when I was a school kid. I suddenly discovered, because I was already collecting 78s, and I suddenly discovered, you can actually play this music and people will like it, because he was a big star.
What about any other historical players who did you
that I listened to
and like you played?
Well, later on, a lot of those Hawaiian players. Azzo Bell blew me out when
When did you first hear Azzo?
I saw him in 1988. I was at the Brisbane Commonwealth Games Expo or whatever it was, and he was playing at the festival, and we were playing at the festival, and I didn't know. I'd never heard of him, but he blew me away. I thought, you are incredible. So and formed a friendship with him, and he's recorded on just about all the junk band albums since, and I love what he does. So I'm just trying to think the other uke players that
Let me put it into a question. If you could record a duet with any uke player, living or dead, who would you choose?
Oh.
Or if you could, get him to play on a junk band.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Gee, that's a good question. Well, I'd love to. I mean, George Formby because of his rhythm playing, but, Ukulele Ike also. So I didn't hear Ukulele Ike until the vinyl came in. So Ukulele Ike is one of my favourite performers of all time. Mm-hmm. But because I love his singing as well as his, and he's another one who does the verses. Ukulele Ike, because he's like you. He can do rhythm stuff that's fantastic, but he also can switch to playing melodies and notes, and he's really accomplished. And he's had a tragic life, of course, but Ukulele Ike, I guess if I'd had
to choose.
I had to choose, it would be Ukulele Ike. But I didn't even know when I was a kid I didn't have any recordings of him. I only discovered him in the early 70s when I had vinyl recordings and there were reissues of stuff, and then I discovered he was the one who was singing, When You Wish Upon a Star on Disneyland. I was thinking, oh my God, that's the same guy.
Well, getting back to ukes themselves, are you a soprano man, sort of through and through?
Yeah. I mean, I do like I've got the tenor guitar, which is like a big uke anyway, so I suppose that's a bit like a baritone uke in a way. It kind of, it's sort of tones, but no, I love the soprano. Lots of people can vary all their kind of ukes, but I don't want it to sound like a guitar unless it has to be a guitar, like the tenor guitar I loved. When I was in Captain Matchbox, Dave Hubbard owned that guitar, and I was in lust with it as soon as he heard him play it, because he could play it really well. But
so did you buy that?
I bought it off him because he decided to drop out and become a teacher, and he wanted to sell some of his instruments.
Drop out
of the
music
music industry and get a real job. So he knew that I was in lust with it, so he rang me up from Melbourne. I was in Sydney at the time. I was in Melbourne, actually. I was in Melbourne, yeah. And anyway, so he sold it to me for $800, and then Bob Brosman tells me that particular model of national tenor guitar is the special 97 or 6 or something, and is like incredibly rare, and Bob Brosman had never seen one.
Oh God.
Had never seen that special particular, and didn't believe. Phil told him I had it because Phil was working with him and went to New Guinea with him to film stuff in New Guinea, and Phil said, no, Mick's got one, and he said, I don't believe it, but then he saw it.
Actually saw it.
Yeah, and it wasn't in great condition. When Hud gave it to me, it was unplayable.
Right.
The neck was broken, and there was all kinds of things wrong with it. But I got it fixed. Yeah. Now I love it, even though I'm just a plodder. But at least it's being used rather than not being on a wall. And
well, that's clearly your favourite guitar. Then, do you have a favourite uke?
The Martin. I've still got the Martin.
So it's the one you got.
The one I got in the 70s. I've still got that.
Is it a style O, Martin?
It's whatever the simplest one is that hasn't got pearl inlays.
Mahogany.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Style O. Yeah, I think I've seen it.
You've seen it. Yes,
they're great.
It just sounds beautiful, and also when you record with it, it doesn't see the Kamalay. I can't record with that because you push your finger down on it and it goes out of tune. Yeah. Sort of. It's passable in a live situation, but recording you can't do it. So, so I love that. The Martin's just got a lovely warm tone. I just love it. So,
what about songwriting? Do you use the uke to do songwriting?
I do.
Yep.
Or the tenor. And but mostly, I tend to write with other people because I do occasionally invent little melodies and things like that, but I write in the idiom of the 20s and 30s anyway, musically. Right. That's my head is still there, and even but lyrically I make it a bit more contemporary, of course. But so I do write with the uke. I like, because it's so just easy, accessible once again, and I can just it supports the voice so beautifully. So
What's your favourite tune to play on a uke? Just sitting around, having a tea and playing a uke.
Probably. Well, there was an old '78 record called "If I Can't Havana in Cuba, I Think I'll Siesta in Spain," and I like playing that. Really? I like because it's got that Brazil riff. Dun 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 dun. You can do that really easy on the uke. I've discovered.
Yeah.
So and it's got that. They've obviously stolen that riff from them, and but the song is not was one of the first 78s I ever got, which had a silly lyric, and the title is just so good. I thought, so I like playing that one because it has only got about 7 or 8 chords and easy to work out. I was able to work it out pretty quickly, and stick in the riff, and I'm thinking, this is fun, and it's rhythmically
That's
really
what it's
nice.
about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fun. What about the Wiggles? You've done a lot of uke work with the Wiggles.
No, not much uke work.
Not much uke work?
I have done a little bit of uke work and a little bit of harmonica with them, but they have a higher opinion of me as a musician than I warrant. But having said that, I think they've got mixed up with my brother, because my brother's a very good harmonica player, but they thought I was a very good harmonica player, but I'm not. But what I did with the Wiggles is I've got this washboard which is full of silly noises and things, and so I've recorded with them with that and done a little TV show. They've got their own kind of TV thing and all that. I haven't done the Wiggles for a few years now. Since they've got the new broom, the new lineup, I haven't done that.
Yeah.
But
you were there at the golden
I was there
era.
at the start, and they got me to... I was for 20 years the voice of Wags the dog.
20 years?
20 years. Well, they've been going that long.
long.
They've been going 27 or something, a really long time.
That's crazy.
And that Wags the dog. I've been Wags the dog, but it's until they got the new broom in, and so they're doing it all in house now. But they used to get me in to bark into a microphone when Wags didn't have when he couldn't speak, and then eventually he did speak. But it took a number of years. So I used to have these ridiculous recording sessions at the Wiggles where they would get me, I'd be barking emotions and sounds and responses to things that they had, and then they would just put them into their shows or their TV or whatever they did.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was my claim to fame, was the voice of Wags the dog. Yeah, but I didn't really play. I think I might have played uke on one song for them. I think that's all I did. So
I've got one more question. It's complete this sentence. Play the ukulele because.
Oh. Well, there could be a multitude of reasons.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, absolutely.
Because it makes me happy. But that's a really droll, sort of cliche kind of answer. Gee, you got me there. That's the truth.
That's a good one. That's fine.
Pretty. Because I love it.
Yeah.
There you go. Because I love the sound. I love the uke.
Yeah.
And I've got some bad uke jokes, but you've probably heard.
Give us one.
Well, one of them is the missing link between music and noise. People like that one. And that one was one I could.
They all work with banjos as well.
I could tell that in Germany.
Yeah.
And they got it because they tell it very slowly.
Yeah.
And if they could speak in English, they got it. So
yeah.
you can't do puns. It's not a pun. So they got that. And the other one is it's the cane toad of the music industry.
It is now.
And people get shocked. And you must hate it. And I go, no, I love it. But you got to make fun of yourself.
You got to have it.
I do that when I'm holding the uke. I say it's the cane toad of the music industry, or in I think other places I say the cockroach or something like that.
Yeah, they don't.
Because it's so ubiquitous now. That's because there's so many people that are now playing it.
Yeah, but as we said before, it's getting people into music, isn't it?
It is. It's an avenue.
You can't be upset about that.
No, I'm not. I love it. I just even when they're playing crappy Rolling Stone songs on the uke and when it should be played on the guitar, I still think, no, this is good.
Exactly. Yeah. And so many older people as well getting into it. And
people
helping them. It must be staving off dementia and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
Populate the world with ukulele players, that's what I say.
Well, that's great.
All right,
thanks very much.
Well, there you have it, the fabulous Mick Conway. If you'd like to find out more about Mick and where he'll be playing, check out his website at mickconway.com. And you might also like to get your hands on a copy of the terrific book, Captain Matchbox and Beyond, The Music and Mayhem of Mick and Jim Conway, which is available now. To take us out, here's Mick Conway's National Junk Band with Wicky Wacky Woo. Until next time, keep on strumming.
Hawaii, sail across the ocean blue. Don't wanna do the hula hula, wanna wicky wacky woo with you. No need to play my ukulele under a palm tree like they do. Although I like a good lay, I like to say, wanna wicky wacky woo with you. Wicky wacky woo, wicky wacky woo, I'd like to canoodle with you. Wicky wacky woo, wicky wacky woo, would you like to canoodle with me too? If you like me like I like you like, we like to linger, it's true. Don't wanna go to Hawaii, wanna wicky wacky woo with you. I wanna love ya, wicky wacky woo with you.